Hi, shalom friends. Can you remember a time when the word attitude meant a lot to you? Can you remember a time in school where perhaps a teacher said, "Young man, I don't like your attitude"? Have you ever met a person that actually was fired because of attitude? Have you ever been a person that was rewarded simply because, I like your attitude? Of course, to try to explain what is attitude would be at least another YouTube. But let's suffice and say that attitude counts. All of us know and we feel a good attitude, and we're somehow able to sense a negative attitude. What is an example of a good attitude? Well, I saw a t-shirt. The person wearing the t-shirt was at least 60. And on the t-shirt it says, "I'm sweet 16 with 44 years of experience." That, my friend, is a healthy attitude. Yeah, I'm 60 years old, but really I just have a lot of experience being 16. Or for that matter, they once asked a chauffeur who was chauffeuring around, I'll make up the name, Mr. Bancroft. And they said to the chauffeur, they said, "Well, don't you feel a little bit minimized and intimidated by Mr. Bancroft?" He said, "Why should I? He's working for me." So they looked at him like he was off the wall. Wait a minute, you're the one that's driving the car. He's the one in the back seat. He said, "No, he's working for me. Who pays me? Mr. Bancroft. That means he goes to business every single day so he could hire me. Actually, I'm the big shot. He works for me, at least as much as I work for him." Attitude? Yeah, but not bad, actually. That's a positive attitude. One of the most disturbing thoughts that have a very detrimental effect upon us is the attitude that we sometimes have, and that is towards ourselves. We say to ourselves, we don't really count. We're not really important. Our existence is not terribly significant. And then other people in a depressed mood make a list. And if I died tomorrow, who would know? Who would care? Very few people. And in the larger scale of things, in the billions of people, what would it mean? And that attitude is very, very harmful. It's not only depressing and makes a person feel morose, but it actually calls into question his value and his productivity. I would say to all of us, the world was created for you. Now, this is actually a spiritual concept, but let's bring it down to the real nitty-gritty, to the every single day existence. Imagine you're sitting with a cup of coffee, and you're having these terrible thoughts of you're insignificant. Stop and reflect. You're drinking coffee. How many people did it take to get that coffee to you in your hands? If you actually sat down and made a list, there's the coffee plantation, and there's the people that are planting and harvesting and grinding, refining it. And then it has to be sent to a factory where it's going to be packaged, and then it's going to be shipped, and then it's going to be sent to a store, and then someone will have to stock it. I mean, actually tens of thousands of people, or perhaps more, hundreds of thousands of people were actually involved in the production of this cup of coffee that you're holding in your hand that you bought for $2.50. It's an amazing thing. A world was created so you could have your coffee, and hundreds of thousands of people were involved in labor in order that you may enjoy a cup of coffee. And this is true whether you're a hunter of old. How much of the world was necessary to create this deer, this forest, this salmon that you caught? This is equally true of the intellectual who's reading a book of science and mathematics. How many people had to exist so you might partake of this wisdom? And when you begin to really think about it, I mean, you just throw up your hand and say, oh my gosh, am I that important? That so many people and so many resources were dedicated to produce this for me? And the answer is yes, you are that important. Because when the first man opened up his eyes and was in a garden of Eden, literally a paradise, and saw the most beautiful sky and smelt the most fragrant air and interacted with the most exquisite of God's creations, he looked around and must have wondered, who is this all for? And the response would be very obvious: for you, my dear man, for you. Well, let's make believe we could carry this as a dialogue. Dear God, you made this all for me. What am I supposed to do with all of this? And God's response would be, what you should do with all of this that I created for you is to use it for something noble. Actually, in a sense, to bring it back to me. I created the world for you so you might become a partner with me in creation. So the world around you will acknowledge the Creator who created them and you. They can't do it on their own. The sky and the sun and the raccoon and the mineral cannot come to a true realization that they are products and manifestations of the infinite Creator without man. But when man uses the world and acknowledges God, he actually brings into a fulfillment all of creation. How important are you? The answer is the world's destiny is hanging upon your actions. And this, my friend, is attitude. It's a very good attitude. This is an attitude that motivates. It doesn't allow you just to take a back seat. Again, I always like to take some lofty thoughts and bring it down to simple stuff. Let's say, for example, your mother calls you up and says, come home for dinner. You say, Ma, I'm very busy, or I'm not in the mood. Can I come maybe next week? And she says, Boobala, it's your birthday this week. I spent 2.5 hours making a delicious meal. Now, who's going to have in their heart to disappoint a mom who worked 2.5 hours to make a meal as an expression of her love? Ma, I'm coming. I'm hungry. Thank you. Someone invites you to partake of something, to read a book, enjoy hospitality. And you say, it's okay, I don't need it. He says, but I work so hard. I put so much effort into this, thinking about you. Well, if you're a person that has a heart, you find it difficult to say no. Their effort actually motivates you to the extent that, in a sense, it obligates you. The Almighty God says, you like what you see? It's beautiful out there. It's massive. It's filled with majesty and grandeur. I did that all for you, for a human being who was created in my image. What are you going to say to God? Nah, it's okay. You didn't have to do it. The universe was created for me. How can I just turn my back on that? Just on a personally human response. Of course, I'll rise to the occasion. And how much more so when I realize that by rising to the occasion, I truly become great. So friends, get yourself an attitude. I like your attitude already. One that's dynamic, one that's strong, one that's positive. And with that attitude, truly, we will be able to change the world for the better. Shalom.